Okay, so one last stream before the end of the year, trying to get my Tankhead all painted. Since last stream, I was actually able to finish building it, started primed, and started the first few steps of dry brushing the main colours on it. You can more detailed steps on my Twitter and Instagram for keeping up with that, but dry brushed on some Iron Warriors for the metallic base and some Mechanica Standard Grey for the armour bits, and then recently I've just been adding details, picking out certain bits I like the look of in copper, picking out wires in red, picking out another type of wire with the contrast Black Templar, and also painting the insides of pistons with a brighter silver. I think that's coming together alright now. There's just a few more detail steps left, and then can shade it. Oh yeah, plus I need to actually paint the base. Because the base is primed, but that's about it. Whew. So today is just going to be painting some more of the details, and also the base. And then hopefully I can end it off with shading it. First up, I do need to do a second coat of corn red on some of the wires, just to make sure they stand out okay. So, got some paint water. My corn red. Got my Raphael Kalinsky France 8404 size 0. My super high quality cardboard palette. And paper towel. So, time to get painting. Just picked out a few of the wires in red because there's reds on a few of the Tankhead wires, and it is a nice, it's a different colour, but it's also not too bright. So it'll add some variety to the model without being too distracting. If I wanted to specifically have a different notable colour, I'd do something like something brighter, like a brighter red or an orange. But red isn't like a main colour of the build I want to work in, so I'm just leaving it this less noticeable red. And I don't need to worry about getting coverage everywhere into all the edges of all the pieces, just because this is the second coat. I've already done the base coverage layer. This is just for a clean, consistent colour on the most important areas. I will go back and paint a bit more on anywhere where I missed the first time around. Wires on the knees, which is detail I added last stream, doing the detail pass with the riveting and green stuff wires. Fortunately, I don't need to worry too much about making sure this red has good coverage, or this coat has good coverage, because corn red is a very strong paint. I don't know if like the correct term is like heavily pigmented, so it's just easy to get a good coverage. Makes it a bit of a pain to clean the brush afterwards, but you only need like 2 coats to get good coverage with it. Goliath. You should do more of these using the Gleaming Rust. That'd be interesting, because then you could have the Gatling gun on the main turret and the big gun on the chest. There's an upgrade kit called Thunder. Funny you mention that. There is another person on Twitter who is doing I think it's a Lehman Russ based Tankhead. So if you want to see what that looks like, they're doing a pretty good job. Let me see if I can quickly grab a link to it. I considered the Lehman Russ for the tank parts for this one, but the Lehman Russ is a bit of a weird size where it's too big to go with armature parts, but I think it's not quite big enough to go with Questoris Knight parts. Let me see. Is Burger Manul on Twitter. The person who does some cool conversions. Yeah. There is someone converting a Lehman Russ Tankhead, which is shaping up pretty well. I think they're on the same step I was last stream, where just doing the detail passive, adding wires. And after I've done this second coat for the red wires, there are a few spots I have noticed that I do need to go and do a second coat with some of the copper details. But it's only missing, well, it's only hitting certain areas which had missing coverage from before, so it should just be another quick one ideally. And this red only really goes over the... Could you combine them to make legs that work? What do you mean combine them? Combine the kits, like the Questoris and the Armature? And if you mean legs that work, like that actually have the proper joints that move, that's probably possible. It would be a big pain to do, because I did something similar with my old BT where I put magnets on all the joints, which made it posable, but the problem is it's hard to kind of keep it in one pose. It just naturally goes kind of limp. So, especially with the legs for that, it would be, I don't know, it would have trouble standing up on its own. So it would be a cool feature, but it wouldn't really make it, I don't know, you'd always have to have something to prop it up on, I guess. the arm wires. Breaking this build down into the two separate sections of frame and armor has been pretty helpful. There's a few bits that are on the frame exclusively, almost exclusively. There are the copper and red details. And then on the armor there is the white stripes and a few more silver details. So let's help break it up into that second layer. It is something I noticed from the art, where let me see if I can quickly pull it in. Yeah, it's something I have noticed from the art where the copper is almost exclusively on the frame sections. There are no copper bits on the armor itself. Just kind of help break up that, break it down and make it more understandable. I could have it like with one arm and a rock wall shooting all with a turret. Yeah, just incorporate it into the terrain somewhat to help, but that would probably be. It would be kind of harder to make it posable if it's gonna have some kind of inaction pose. It's a balance I've encountered a lot when building stuff, where it's add cool functions or put it into a specific pose, because a lot of my stuff is in neutral poses because that's easiest to build, and it's also the easiest to build with all extra stuff. But when you put it in an action pose, then stuff has to be kind of locked into place so it's like more secure and connect and balances against those things. So this Tankhead is in a very neutral pose, but because of that I was able to work more on giving it in internals. Like you can see at the back of the chest there are some plasma guns generators, and I have even magnetized some crew, which I also need to paint the details on. For now, we're doing the second coat of copper. That is just a metal ball and the pot making that noise, just to help shake up the paint, because I go a while between painting. So if I need to make sure the paint is properly mixed before actually using it, otherwise it can get all clumpy. Let's what parts could do with a second coat? Yeah, the Malkador is a cool one. Something I considered for this Tankhead, because this Tankhead also has another, I don't know, it has a variant where it's got a slightly different chest, and it looks like it's got like an offset gun, and I think Malkador has an offset gun too, where it's like not on a turret, it comes straight out the chassis and it's like off center. That's something I looked at and considered. Maybe would like to do something with one day, but I don't think I'll be doing another Tankhead build like this soon, just because it's been a lot of work. It's been 4 months been working on this so far. And it's nice to do big projects like this that really push yourself, that really push me and make me learn new things and techniques to get it done. But I would like to make more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 things a year. That's a few spots of copper. Yeah, it definitely does look very cool. Very happy I've, I don't know, gotten this far with the build. It's definitely something I wouldn't have been able to do before. I needed that, I don't know, years of experience of building to get to this point. It's fun thinking of the different things I've had to learn to get here. Like, there is the plasticard armor, which I started practicing with ages ago and needed to get all this stuff ready. There is, from an earlier build this year, there is my North Star Armature, which on that one I started, I learnt about using these kind of metal wire that I bent into place, which came in handy because this Tankhead has metal wire bars all over it, like here and on the front of the feet. And then the internals is something that I mainly did for the first time with my BT build, practicing using, like, cutting down Imperial Knight cockpit parts, which I used again for here. So it really is like putting everything I've learned into this one build. It's hard to say what my next Tankhead build will be for sure. Haven't even finished this one, and new stuff might pop up that might take my priority, but I do want to try one of the jet heads. Because I've done 2 of the traditional humanoid standing Tankheads, so I feel like I'd want to try something a bit more different, like one of the more animalistic ones. And I still have yet to make a Archaeopter, the AdMech flying vehicle. And of course I can't just do that normally. So trying to make a jet head out of that would be a cool one. But like I said, other stuff might pop up, so don't take that as anything solid. And until then, I do want to go back a little to my Black Templars, since it's been a while since I did any of them, and they're always a fun, kind of smaller build. Have I seen the Warhammer 40k Steel Coffins fan films last year on YouTube? Ooh, no I haven't, I'll have to check that out. Man, it seems like there's just more and more just cool Warhammer video stuff coming out. Just earlier I saw a cool short animation about some battleship firing line. I know there's the Morning Star series, which I need to watch more of. Like, official wise, there's the great secret level thing, which really made me want to get back into making some Black Templars, just because Space Marines pretty cool and kick-ass. I'll have to look it up. You say a scorpion? Ooh. Right, Imperial Guard. Ooh. That does look cool. I'll definitely capture that later. Because as I mentioned, a lot of the Warhammer stuff does focus on Space Marines, which they're the big tough guys of the set, and of course it will. But there are plenty of cool stuff outside of that. I think I'd be happy to see I don't know, something with an AdMech focus. Still waiting for Mechanicus 2. Hopefully it's out 2025. That's a part I forgot to paint with a brighter silver. Let me quickly get on that. I do want to add just like a spot or two of copper in the main chest, because that is a big piece and that has no copper, so it feels a bit, I don't know, left out to me. I want to have a good balance of all the colours. Space Marine 3 tanks that are based on the Chimera chassis for the custom though. Thinking something, I think it's the Defiler, maybe that's a more standard Space Marine style. Wear the machine down from before it's corrupted with chaos. Yeah, there are a lot of Horus Heresy or like 30k era vehicles, which I don't know have been like kind of outdated by the time of 40k, but it's still really cool and I want to do something with. Like I got the whole Mechanicum battle group thing, so you get to build something with. There's an abundance of cool vehicles, but not enough time to do cool builds with more. So plate armor that is. But yeah, painting the insides of certain piston elements with a brighter silver, just because that's something I see on, I don't know, actual vehicles and cool designs all the time, and especially with this build. With this design, I mean. You can see specifically, like, on the toe pistons, on the thigh pistons, and on the piston, like, just on the inside of the elbow, you can see that the inside of some moving joints are this bright silver. So this is a detail I very specifically built in. Specifically that something that stood out in my mind of, oh, this is a cool element of the design I need to build into this, so can't forget to paint it either. On the back of the arm pistons too. The tricep pistons going from human comparative musculature. There's one you learnt about from the Knight's phone game. The Chaos uses like a mini knight. Would love to get one and repurpose it. A mini knight? Like the Armiger? So I know the knights have a knight variant of the Armiger, which is like the War Dog, I think it is. Which does come with some cooler weapon options. Oh man. Just reminded me, I did miss that part of the arms. For another mechanical detail too. That's something else I need to go and do. Call it a mini knight, but originally used before Chaos Corrupted, it was like a war machine, it was labour. Yeah, the scale of knights can seem weird just because they're already the smaller class of stuff down from the full Titans. And even within them there is stuff like the Dominus, which is just a slightly extended out Questoris. Like, I think my Tankhead is, well, my Tankhead is started off as a Questoris, but I've added so many extensions to the chest and to the legs and built out new arms that I think it might be closer to a Dominus now. It's not an art. Two-legged walking war machine with two arm weapons, but it's got a demon mount in it. Oh, so it's a demon engine? Like, I don't know. Oh, there's the Hellbrute, but that's like the Chaos Dreadnought equivalent. Obliterator? I don't know, there's a lot of weird chaosy stuff. Okay, so for the other mechanical detail I missed, it was Black Templar Contrast. Decimator. Okay, CVs. What is that? This specific type of, I don't know, corrugated wire on the back, that works particularly well with first off dry brushing it like the rest of the metals and then putting Black Templar Contrast over it. So I always like to pick out those. Let's see, what are you talking about? Decimator. Oh! Yeah, that thing. That is... Yeah, that's a Forge World resin kit. Yeah, you're right. It is. I don't know, a knight, but not quite a knight. Yeah, it is. It is a demon engine, which is just, I don't know, a catch-all thing for, I don't know. It's demon mech thing. Yeah, it is a very unusual one. Don't know a huge amount about it myself, but given it's a chaos engine, it's probably, yeah, very deadly, where it's just, turn it on, point it in the right direction, try not to get in its way, type thing. So then, after wrapping up all those extra mechanical detail I missed before, I do want to paint some more of the Skitari and the other, like, internal details. Fortunately, I can pretty much just copy all the same steps I did before, because they are still mostly mechanical. I think these guys will really come together at the shading step. Very precise. I need to paint the kind of face gas mask wires. Yeah, I'd love to come up with a designer that uses its original chassis that shows like it was before it was really captured and corrupted. Yeah, the de-chaosing is always a fun idea for certain things. I'd like to, like, I don't know, try to de-orcify some of the flyers, just because there's not many flyers to choose from with bits when you're looking for that kind of thing. So for a jet head, de-orcifying something is something I've considered. But there's also some, like I said, Chaos have their own knight variants. And it would be cool to try and make a loyalist knight equivalent. Like, there's a Chaos Knight that seems really cool. I think it's Incarnate Terror or Incarnate Slaughter. And that's always sounded really cool. And it's like, well, I don't have a Chaos Knight army, so could I de-chaosify it and just stick it in with my normal knights? Yeah, probably started with some loyalist tech somewhere, or even not loyalists, some like Dark Age of technology. And any vehicles that exist within 40k are like territory that could be made loyalist at some point. Admech's going to tamper with everything in some way or another, so makes sense that they'd have a non-tainted version of a lot of things. Okay, so painting some of the wires on the Skitari and other internals with corn red. Where is he? Gotta figure out the right way to hold this first. I've been considering, should I do many orange accents? Just because it's not in the original design, but it is part of my Forge World scheme. I don't know. I just keep it simple and not. Few red wires. Each of the wires and the purity seal on this guy. He's fanciest, he's the commander, so he gets purity seal. Yeah, I was thinking of painting like a few of the smaller wires orange, because that'd be a way to work it in without it taking up a large portion. I'm sure there's some smaller bits like that I can find. I did notice I missed some of the Black Templars. That's all good. I can mostly figure out what you mean with the spelling mistakes. Although 40k has a lot of unique words which make it a pain to type out. Plenty of times when like writing scripts for my videos, there's just like red underlines everywhere for everything just because... What do you mean Admech isn't a word, or Basilicanum grey for the paints, or corn or whatnot, so... I'm used to dealing with like Warhammer misspellings. There it is. And what was next? I was looking for a brighter grey to prepare some of the areas for contrast with light effects. Quickly, I need to go refresh my paint water because I'm painting a bright colour. I don't want that paint water messing with it. Okay, some nice clean water now, and I'm going to paint some grey cere, which is going to be not quite white, but bright enough to work as it, just because bright colours are always such a pain to paint. But for the little skits, they are just going to be on spots like kind of forehead dot, like this guy doesn't have, the chest dot, which I want to make a blue glow, so I start off with the white and then I do a contrast paint for the actual glow bit. Is got one of the screen control panel pieces that go on the inside of the wall, and quick shortcut I always love doing for these is using green contrast paints. Similar to how I use the blue contrast paint for the blue lights, there's a nice green contrast where 2 coats of that makes a nice dull green computer screen. Ooh. Or you can do an Iron Man army that uses disrupted chaos machines. Yeah, talking more about dechaosing or de-orcifying. Doing a Votan, but using all their Men of Iron kits and just kind of converting everything so that it's no dwarfs, all Men of Iron. Would be another, that's a cool idea, but all the time in the world to think up ideas, not enough time to build those ideas. I do have a small collection of Men of Iron minis. Like, I've got the Castellan robots from the AdMech, I've got UR-28 from Blackstone Fortress. There are some Votan kits I picked up just to build the Men of Iron stuff from there. So I do have a bit of that, but full collection is a whole different story. Ooh, it's Scorpion, aka the Modified Defiler. Yeah, what made it a Scorpion? Because when you say Scorpion in regards to, I don't know, vehicles, my mind goes to the Halo tank. Do I paint the... Yeah, I'll paint the stuff while I'm at it. By other stuff, I mean all the actual tank parts that need lights on them. So it's this big central chest piece. Ooh. It's specifically kept this bit. There we go. I kept that hatch blue tacked on just so I could make it easier for painting this thing. Because I do want to do a cool light window effect under here. Lower half of the defiler gives you sort of scorpion. Oh, so it was animal lower legs? Or insectoid lower legs? Because there is a Chaos steam engine thing kind of like that. Oh, I think one of the HQs rides on it. That was another cool thing of, oh, that's a cool mechanical thing. Could I de-chaosify it, or I don't know, make it more like dark AdMech? And the back has some lights too. Don't know if it's a feature of actual tanks, but just look like car indicators to me. What else? What else? The sights on the tank guns. I suppose you could give that some custom Halo. Yeah, kit bash a custom Halo tank scorpion design. Feels like I do want to try something with what's called split tracks or quad tracks, where it's like instead of a tank with just 2 tracks down the side, it's like 2 at the front, 2 at the back. That's a cool way to switch it up. One, I don't know, easy trick for always kit bashing something is just change its... For kit bashing vehicles, it's to like change its method of movement. If it's on tracks, give it wheels or legs, a different type of track. Just something to change the method of locomotion. Because after I'm done with this build, I'll have some tank treads spare. Which makes you go, oh, what could I use those tank treads on? Could I turn the AdMech transport craft with their like hovercraft thing? Could I just put that on treads? And then that gives me a leftover AdMech transport chassis to do, and oh, could I put that on legs too? Ooh, Tiberian Sun Command Conquer Mammoth tank. Ooh. That's kind of like what? Oh yeah, that's good old split track. And particularly, I think split tracks would work well because of the cataphrons, the kind of cataphrons. I always use those for parts, but I never end up using the treads that much. So I've got a bunch of smaller treads, so I could do that. Like put an onager on treads instead of legs. So many ideas of stuff to kibash. I just wish I had the time to actually see them all through. Yeah, Command and Conquer, Red Alert. Played those games when I was younger, and it's like, oh, full of cool sci-fi vehicles. Man, this is a really awkward spot to paint. Too many ideas, not enough time. That's the bane of my existence. The more complicated an idea gets, like, oh, that's really cool, I really want to do it, I really want to test my skills doing it and learn how, but then it's like, well, that's how many other builds could I do that aren't as complex in that time? So, what next? What next? Need to wait for that layer of need to wait for that layer of bright grey to dry, because I need to do a second coat in some places. Somewhere else I needed to do it. On the actual head of the tank. There are some spotter camera-like devices there. Let's get her back out. That's the problem. I can't. If I just do it, there are other things I can't do. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, it's great when I have 7 projects on the go and too many boxes unopened. I used to. Well, I'll try to keep myself on track and not start a project until one is finished, at least. But I still have. Well, that box has that incomplete idea that I never got around to, and then I've got this half-painted model sitting behind me that was my idea for an initial Christmas model, but then I had a cooler idea. And I got some infantry AdMech conversions, which I want to get back to at some point, but those are years old at this point, so... So many ideas. Goddamn hair on the brush. You never know. A kit might come out which completely invalidates that project. Like, one of the things I had half assembled for a while was... Well, not even half assembled, I had just had a collection of random bits for, was an Arvis Lighter project. So I wanted an Arvis Lighter for my AdMech, as a troop transport, just a proxy for the Archaeopter, but it's in resin and I don't like working with resin, so it's like, oh, can I make one out of plastic? And I had a cockpit from a Stormhawk, the cargo container for the body. I had a Storm Raven set of wings, and then just a few weeks ago they announced we're bringing out the Alpha Lighter in plastic. So, wow, perfect. I don't even need to worry about that old half-finished project. Yeah, always something coming out, taking the focus. How are the lights for this? Are they dry yet? See a very, very spotty coverage. Project, look at your work desk. Oh. This is my work desk, and it's my work desk for everything. So I'm, I don't know, more forced to keep it clean. If I had a desk just for Warhammer, it would be swarmed. But now every so often I'm going to go, stop, there's too much clutter, time to clean up after I'm done with this stage of the project, but it's not great. I still have a handful of bits over on the left from the building stage of this. Yeah, quick and easy project is always nice, which is why I want to go back to my Black Templars, because compared to this night where it's a kit bash two things and rebuild almost every element every step of the way, Black Templars are just, do a head swap, do a weapon swap, glue some chain around the arm, there you go, you're done. So it would be a nice way to start off the new year. So, revisiting this old project and adding a new, I don't know, division, section, adding a new attachment worth of stuff. Ooh. Some modular trenches. Yeah, there's always something. I don't know. They're versatile. Got Trench Crusade, which is a big new up-and-comer. Would work for 40k, would work for Kill Team, would work for, more historical games, like, Bolt Action. Always got to appreciate multi-purpose stuff that you can use across different things. Like, I do want to go back and make some more Necromunda, like, terrain squares. Just because, yeah, they work for game scenery. You can, like, use them in different rotations and connect them at different edges, and there you go, you got like super customizable terrain for can be reused without it really getting ever really getting that old. Plus, for me, they make great backdrops for taking nice photos of finished minis. But yeah, that's another build project. I'm sure I'll get around to it eventually. was thinking of, ooh, could I make some terrain to go with my Tankhead, because I've got like a cockpit, it's not a cockpit, a hangar type terrain for the works in my armature scale, but nothing big enough to work as a hangar or repair bay or whatever for full Questoris Knights, really. It's just, well, that's an excuse to do a whole new project. Where'd the music go? There it is. Of course, we haven't played any of the games. I've been. It's kind of bad to say, but like, I don't think I've actually played a game of 40k with my AdMech. So many cool conversions and stuff that I've never seen used on the tabletop. Of course I want to someday, but I play Kill Team more than anything else. Some of like my Skitarii and other infantry, they've gotten some use out of that. It's like, it's a big event getting a full 40k game. I'm almost worried my army won't survive the transport. Because AdMech are notorious for having all antennas and bits sticking out that fall off in transport under the best conditions, let alone when it's everything's custom and finicky. Yeah, custom models. When they're too different, they need custom models. Most of the time, I try to, I don't know, make them match the weapons profiles of stuff. Like, oh yeah, this is a custom conversion, but it can be used as like an onager or this or that or the other, just to make it simple. Like I said, I barely play normally enough, let alone coming up with stuff for custom rules for games. But I have plenty of fun building and painting, so I'm in no rush to play. Whew. Ooh, got a Legion of the Damned. Fun custom thing. But yeah, there's always something else taking priority. Like, so much building needed on the Tankheads. You can't find any time to play. Gotta build. Gotta figure out the arm joints. Gotta add this next level of detail onto the frame. Gotta repose Skitarii to have them pilot it. But it's good that you're able to find some time for D&D at least. So many games and groups for D&D I've played have just fallen by the wayside just because scheduling is a pain. So if you can get that going, jump on it. Yeah, it's painting and getting stuff ready is a huge task in and of itself, and there's always something going on. while building this, it's like, oh, there's a few points where some things are broken off and I've had to re-glue them, and plenty of the rivets has fallen out. Though I knew that would happen eventually. Oh yeah, then after everything, I'm going to make a video on the stuff I build. I mean, it's fun to explain it, but it's like, oh yeah, it's a whole extra step. That's an extra week or two, or probably for this 3, after the actual building of the model. And something I work on in the background all the time too. Still need to finish the script, and then finish writing the script for it, and then voice over it all, and then edit it all, including the footage I'm recording now. Okay, so what next? Just going to quickly clean up some grey, because there are a few spots where the white went over. So I need to fix that. And some of these skits could use a second coat of it too. Damn, that paint is getting thick. Let's thin it down a little. Where is it? There. Got a pipette just to accurately put a few drops of water back in pot when it gets too thin. Because good old Citadel paint pots, they love to dry. They love to never close properly and never be fully sealed again, so paint always dries out. Yeah, I don't have to make a video and stuff, but this is a big project. I don't make videos on every project because that would be a lot, but this was a big one and there's so many changes and so much stuff I learned from it. It's definitely worth it to explain it all. Just because I got my start making models from stuff like Pete the Wargamer and Lich's Lab, and going, oh, that's a cool way to customize models, and I learned from their videos, and so I want to kind of pay back the favour to the, I don't know, community at large, because you never know when someone's going to see something and go, oh, that's the exact thing I was looking for, or it's the exact thing, it was something that inspires them. Yeah, a lot of paint's lost. A lot of paint sessions I have to take a minute, well, I have to take like 5 minutes out just to dig out the paint dried in the top of the pot to make sure it closed properly. That one's clean. Some skits could use a second coat. Some of their grey parts. Yeah, the variety of everyone on YouTube is great. Like, there's, even if people kit bash the same thing, they'll do it different ways, so there's always some unique insight on everything. And even outside of kitbashing, just like painting too, everyone's got such unique styles. Like Rogue Hobbies Louise, she has some absolutely crazy layering and bright colours and stuff from that. Very different from my style, but it's always great to watch to see how it gets done. That's what I needed. Another step to do. Rakarth flesh for this guy's purity seal. But then one mini painter I do. His style is quite similar to mine, mostly because I copied some of his big steps, is Artis Opus. A lot of big dry brushing heavy. Some real interesting uses for it, all different effects that can be done with a dry brush. So much so that I kind of want to just think I might be able to just get over the airbrush, getting an airbrush style, just because I feel like, I can probably get away with just using a dry brush instead of it for most of the time. Yeah, there's something to be said about just recording for your own sake, just to go back and remind yourself how you did some things. For this build specifically, there are plenty of times where I looked back at my older Tankhead, which I built a year ago at this point, and it's like, well, it's another Tankhead that I built, but how did I do it? Like, what was the exact recipe for the exact paints I used for all the dry brushing? And so recording everything has helped a lot for reminding myself. Like, I had to go back and check old pictures. It's like, oh, what paint pots did I have out? Because it does go a while between projects. And, like, go a while between projects of different types. Like I said, I want to go back to my Black Templars, but I don't remember the recipe off the top of my head. I'm going to have to go watch some of my own videos and follow my old tutorials just to remember how exactly I did it all. Uh-oh. This could do with some paint of metal to clean up the grey areas. Yeah, notebook is a good idea. I've just got a very extensive, like, photographic history of how I do all my stuff, just because I try to post, like, daily picture updates on my Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky now too, so I've almost got a, like, day-by-day history of building projects for the last multiple years now. Probably organise it a bit better, because it is a lot and it takes a second to get through now. Leather-bound tome. Ooh, nice and fancy. I still just have a simple notebook I sometimes sketch in. I think I've posted pictures of them sometimes. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Yeah, here it is. Got a simple notebook that I sometimes sketch building ideas out in, as well as like write up some steps before write notes on some steps before I fully write it up into a script for a video. So having a notebook nearby always handy. What's next? Silver to clean up on some areas. Man, there's a lot of back and forth with this build. Let's see. To hold this by the fingers. Yeah, tone sounds more dramatic, but no, let it play in your favour. It's the Tome of Secrets. The magic recipes that bring your minis to life. Makes me want to get a fancier notebook, just so I can start calling mine a tome. Some precise work connecting all, correcting all the metal trim on the fist. Okay. Definitely want to make sure all the metallics are out of the brush. Okay, that's looking alright. How are the whites drying? Do I need one more coat of them? Yeah, one more quick coat just for these hands. These are from Titanicus Reavers. Let me quickly see. These don't have any spare to show what they look like straight off the sprue, but they are a bit longer. They go out a bit further at the wrist, but I just cut them down because hands are a very specific and finicky thing to get right in 40k. Because the regular Imperial Knight fist. The regular Imperial Knight fist for 40k is way too big for Tankheads because if you notice from the art I was going off of, the hands are kind of small. And 40k hands are very big just because the way it's scaled, 40k hands aren't like one-to-one scale. Like heads, weapons, and certain details are bigger, scaled bigger. And fists are a weapon like that, especially power fists, which most fists are because they get combined into the forearm. Like, you can see this is the upper arm, and this is like both lower arm and the fist. So you can see where I kept the original upper arm, but had to build a whole new forearm and use a different hand. Just because it doesn't really work as well. And you don't have a lot of fist hands to choose from in 40k because a lot of 40k weapons, like for Imperial Knights especially, they don't have a forearm at all. They just connect straight to a weapon. So for a lot of my smaller armigers, like my previous Tankhead, I used the fist from a Castellan robot from Admech, which is way smaller, but because the fists are bigger, it works. Yes, heroic scale. That's the one. So yeah, that's caused me no end of trouble figuring out fists. But Titanicus, they're smaller and work well. Especially for the whole scaling problems. But yeah. Yeah, that is a whole rant that I go down way too often just because every time I make robots, I like my traditional robots where they're more humanoid and have normal hands, which 40k doesn't like, so it's always tough figuring out where to get the hands from. Okay, next coat of white. With any luck, this is the last coat needed. Ooh. Titanfall inspired armature. What style are you going to go with? Because I've done 2 Titanfall armigers now, my North Star and my BT. Both got videos on them, so I'm sure that'll be some help at least. Which style specifically? Yeah, planning the build. It takes a lot of bits to source. But hey, at least for, I don't know, the BT, that's like mostly an armature kit itself. And that is a concept I do want to come back and visit again, because I've made 3 Titans now, and so for the Titanfall 2 roster, there is another 4. I've made North Star, BT, Legion, and then, BT / Monarch. And then there is the other heavy, which is Scorch, the other light, which is Ronin, and 2 other mediums, which are Ion and Tone. Ooh. Yeah, North Star does have a few other different parts you need to get together. There's the whole Cardinal Overlord's chest, there's the missile pods from the Admech, there's the Tau rifle. So yeah, got a bit more work cut out for you with that one. But good luck with it. I got my video on it. But feel free to shoot me any questions. Any other questions you have, I'd be happy to help out. I've built up a lot of knowledge on a, I don't know, very specific thing of converting Titanfall robots, so I'd be happy to help other people get some use out of that knowledge too. I don't think you want to do a direct recreation, but take more inspiration from the aesthetics of Germany. Yeah, go for it, make it your own. Something I always like with kit bashing stuff, because even if two people do the same kit and the same concept, there's always going to be small differences and extra parts, and it's like, well, I just happen to have that different part lying around that I thought would look good, and so you get some cool extras, and that can just lead to a whole new thing in general and inspire its own wave, just because it's like, there are plenty of kit bashes I see and look and like, but only take like a single idea from it, like, oh, I like the way that part was reused, or I want to recreate that element itself. So it can like just spawn a whole different... A single difference can spawn a whole new build. How do I get these really crisp lines on the front? I use Tamiya masking tape. Tamiya, Japanese modelling brand, used a lot for Gunpla, but what I did was, let me see if I can get a picture of it, because I posted it on my Twitter. Image to... But yeah, I figured out where I wanted all the lines, marked it out with masking tape, and then stippled on with a dry brush. Just like dab it in paint and then like just press down and up again. There it is. So yeah, I marked off all the areas I wanted stripes. You can see with shoulder pad here, just stippled around that area, and then after, it did need like 3-4 coats, just because it is a bright colour and stippling doesn't get a heavy coat. Yeah, my Twitter and Instagram, should probably put those in the bio of the stream. Not great at cross-promoting, but where is it? I've got a link tree, which is just like a collection of all my different links to all my different social medias if you want to keep up with me, but there is that, if you can hopefully see it. I know sometimes the links get filtered, but since I'm the stream, hopefully it won't be, but yeah, there's a link to all the sites I'm on, and all the sites I post. So, yeah, I post like more daily updates on Twitter, just because it is much easier to do. It's just an image and a paragraph. I also post do the same for Instagram stories and on Blue Sky. So if you want to keep up with my building in smaller steps between them, that is the best place for it. I think we're at a good point. What else needs doing? Okay, other control panel details. That's what's next. I've got this control panel for the inside and this, I don't know, station for the driver. So we'll start off with a few good old red buttons. Get into some very, very delicate work now. For my control panels, there's like at least 3 colours I like to do. The good old RGB. I like to do some red stuff, some blue stuff, and some green stuff. So for red, good old corn red. Just because that's what I have out on my desk most of the time, but probably could push it a bit brighter. Just because it is way smaller areas. Got a very fine tip on this, 'cause that is a tiny, like, meter indicator. You're kind of thinking of using Vansar Ashwaste Arachne Rig to incorporate the turbine engine intakes, as they have those on the top to lean into the airplane's back. Yes! That is something I talked about a little. Someone pointed out on Twitter when we talked about one of the. You know those teasers Warhammer Community does? Rumour Engine, that's the one, where it shows pictures of the models that have yet to be announced. They had a picture of a jet turbine with some wires along it. I thought, oh, that looks a bit like some Vatan stuff, and it was almost this exact style of turbine with metal bar over the back. And someone pointed out, oh yeah, that's similar to the Arachne Rig too, so yeah, the Arachne Rig would be a good spot for that kind of stuff. You need to maybe like double check the scale though, because the Arachne Rig might be a bit smaller, but it does have a lot of those airplane-y type parts, especially with the jet turbines on the back. That is a kit I want to pick up myself, just because, hey, it's another cool 40k mech. Never know when those parts are going to come in handy. Well, those parts are always going to come in handy, but never know when specifically. But no, that would be a good place to get some flying mech bits. Just want to double check the scale. Most of the time you can just like Google like Arachne Rig measurements, and sometimes a lot of the times, like on Reddit, people have been asking similar questions, and you'll go, oh yeah, measured it, it's this wide by this tall, and you can do some rough side by sides. It's how I scaled up it's how I compared the tank and the knight before starting this build, just because it's a very expensive kit, and them not fitting together is not something you want to find out after the fact you've spent more than 200 quid in kits. Okay, some good old red dots. Ooh. Brush coating. Yeah. I love dry brush. I mean, it's why I dry brush all my minis now. Just because it takes ages to hand paint everything. It's like I first dry brushed on my first Imperial Knight, my Lancelot, and I was just absolutely floored by how quickly it took to get a base coat of everything. And it even had some like built-in shadings. Ever since then, everything I paint has just been, well, just dry brush the first coat. And dry brush as much as I can get away with too. Like dry brush the first coat of the main colour and like the secondary colour too, if it's a big enough model. And then I'm looking for a green. Green and a blue for all the lights. I like to use Baharoth blue because it is similar, kind of similar to the blue you get when you paint the contrast over grey seer. So if it's for small, just individual bits, I don't want to bother doing the base coat and then the contrast. Baharoth blue, and then I have Cabalite green as a nice, I don't know, not quite green, turquoise? Teal? I don't know. It's a green, but it's not quite green, it's a bit bluey. There's that finicky bit. Any other buttons or anything to worry about? Not on there. How about on here? Oh, has the music stopped again? There you go. Back on. And I don't get how people can just sit and paint the smallest details all day. Like I'm stressing out over the smallest thing here. Although I like to look at the bigger picture of things. More of a builder than a painter. I like the details of how all the parts come together, not all the specifics of painting. Still want to get it painted to a good style, but I'm not losing sleep over it or spending that long. Oh, we are listening to, it is a playlist of AdMech inspired music by Archotechna. The link for this is in the description. It is a playlist. They are a great musician. I love the style of music from the Mechanicus game. Always lamented that there was just only one album worth of it. And then I found Archotechna, who just makes music inspired by it. You got the nice organs. This one is one of my favourite tracks. You got the big booming machinery in the background. It's absolutely perfect. I already got the blue out. Back off blue. Okay, I like this music, and it's very appropriate for good old tech heresy creation painting time. Some good old dry paint in the pot crevices. I also use Archotechna's music in a few of my videos too. They also say they're going through a new stage of making their stuff where they're a small time creator, but they're doing some custom art for their albums now, which is can be interesting to see. Ooh. Sounds good. The Arachne rig and armor just scale up well enough. Oh, there are 2 different types of Arachne rigs. Oh yeah, you said the Ash Waste one, yeah. Because I know there's the non-Ash Wastes Arachne rig, which I think is resin, which would be way harder to work with. So yeah, the Ash Waste one is the one to go with. Just thinking, what other kind of like aerial mechs are they good to take inspiration from? I mean, there's the 2 North Stars. There's North Star and North Star Prime. Yeah, Resin 1 is a bit small. Yeah, I thought so. There's I think it's like the Strider class Titan, which is the Titan North Star was based off of from Titanfall 1. There are the Jet Heads from Tankhead, which are the jet mechs. I think there is one kind of similar to the North Star too. It's got a similar kind of rounded body. Let's see if I can quickly find it, just because. Always keep this book close to hand at my desk. Yeah, here it is. It is the... Just past it. The Kawasemi. I thought it was similar with like the rounded chest. But yeah, that's another good thing to take a look at. More turbines and everything, and this one you even get a nice back view of too. Got shoulder turbines, back turbines, all sorts of leg ones too. So another potential source of inspiration for flying mechs. Not that I don't want to dictate your build to you or anything, but it's always fun to... Whenever someone says a cool concept, my mind goes to, oh, how would I build that? Ooh. Another case of how I end up with too many ideas and not enough time. Because that's all. It's like my first thought when I see something cool now is like, oh, how do I make that myself? Okay, it's always good to try and find multiple sources of inspiration. Just because it's helps you, instead of going off of one, when you have multiple to choose from, it helps you pick and choose individual bits you like and helps the build become like more of your own thing in the end. Plus there are plenty of times when you can't follow one piece that closely, just because it's like, oh, that other detail got in the way of that, and so I can't make that specific bit. So it's like, well, look at what else there is. See what other parts. Take inspiration from a different source to see how they do it differently, and maybe copy from that different one. Maybe come up with an in between, or maybe study the differences and find how they approach the same task, and that gives you some understanding as to how you can make your own version. All part of the fun of building. Okay, and to try and work in some orange, just because this still should be going with my AdMech, so I want that to be orange on I want there to be orange on it somewhere. Gonna see if there's any small wires I can pick out, because I know there's this guitar. I have a lot of good old chest wires. Even though I'm not sure this it's even going to be visible on this guy, because he's way crammed down in a hatch. What about this guy? Ah, man. Rakarth flesh, Rakarth flesh, Rakarth flesh. Next step I need to paint is doing Rakarth flesh on this guy. He's got a purity seal on his shoulder that needs it. I've noticed it multiple times, but always forgotten to come back to it. Are there any things on the side here I can do with orange? It's always like to try and include orange, because the whole thing that... where I got my AdMech's colour scheme from is an old mech anime called Gunbuster, and the main mech, the titular mech in that, Gunbuster, is grey and orange. So it's what inspired my whole army in the first place, so I feel like I try and get a spot or two in there somewhere. And it's a very awkwardly placed wire to try and paint, just because it is right beneath a green stuff wire I added over it the last stream. Ooh, there's another good spot too. That's a little detail, it's probably enough. So this is a very bright and strong colour, I don't want it to take over for a few others. Let's try it on the opposite side. There. Where else? There. Need Rakarth flesh for that servo skull I've crammed in there too. your inspiration comes from my project when I'm looking for all the inspiration for my builds. Yeah, I YouTube or Pinterest too. Yeah, Pinterest. I used to go through a lot more, but from there, whenever I saw something I liked on Pinterest, I always did my best to like hunt down and find the source, to find where that came from in the first place, whether that's an artist or a builder or a game or something, and then followed them individually. Makes that just, if they like something, if you like something they made before, you're likely to like other stuff they made, and then so it's new inspiration just gets brought straight to your Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So it's I did that for long enough now where Pinterest shows me stuff from people I already follow elsewhere, but it's definitely good to find a lot of stuff for the first time. And yeah, I get plenty of inspiration from other model builders and other YouTubers too. Like obviously Pete the Wargamer, probably one of the biggest kit bashers on the scene. He has lots of cool stuff. There is Lich's Lab 2, who's another small one. There is Cut Transform Glue, who does like non-Warhammer specific stuff, but still good source to go, oh, that's an interesting way to use plastic art or whatnot. There's Offbeat builds. In particular, there was a cool retro-futuristic build I did where I did take a little inspiration from them for this tank top part. Because, I mean, they left it as a tank, but did a few more stylistic changes. But they said they cut off the top of this armor piece that goes behind the barrel. I can't remember the exact name, and I just thought, oh wow, that looks much better. So even the smallest bit of inspiration, you never know where it's going to come from, so keep an eye out for everything. But yeah, there's other models like on YouTube and Instagram, there's games, there's books where they just describe an idea and you go, oh, how can I make that? You never know where inspiration's going to come from. Rakarth Flesh, before I forget it for the umpteenth time. There it is. Just digging through my paint drawers. Hello! Doesn't matter if you like the party. It's all good. My robot is going pretty well. Here's the frame. He's, I don't know, a bit naked right now, but let's quickly get a few pieces on him just to show you how it looks. It is looking pretty good. Just hopefully this stream can wrap up all the base colours and then end it with shading. Because I do want to finish this before the end of the year. I've got some nice time for the holidays to spend on it. Thank you, yeah, he's shaping up pretty well. He's a very big kit too. Ooh. Oh, that's my old Rakarth Flesh. Where's my new one? Because that is all dried out. Okay, I think that was the old one. Is this the new one? That's looking slightly better, but good old curse of the GW paint pots. And keeping up the theme with my cardboard of the most professional stuff, I've got massage gun that I just hold the paint pot to and use that as my paint shaker. go. Have I given thought to seeing how fun and silly they'd look in Trench Crusade? Yeah, there are some cool Trench Crusade minis. Like, I remember one of the first things I saw of it, before it was even known as Trench Crusade, when it was just drawings by Mike Francina, like years and years ago. There is a tank with all sorts of, I think, like guts and stuff nailed to the side and a burning witch pyre on the back. And I thought, ooh, that would make a cool occult Tankhead. Oh yeah, as is, he could pass as one of those 80s robot toys, blocky shapes and symbols. Yeah, that is something that is always a big inspiration for me. Like I said, what inspired the colour scheme is Gunbuster, which is an 80s mecha. And it's a very like underrated part of designs. Mech designs nowadays is like consistent shapes. It's like you can add all the detailing you could add all the detailing you like, but at a certain point it just becomes a bit too messy, so you need good, clean, consistent shapes. And for for this one it's been like a bit blockier with the big armor panels, but that does give it a strong look that you can recognise. It's a bit of a mech design tangent, but it was a problem with some of the Transformers movies where it's like, oh, they just look like walking scrapyards, just because there's no big, consistent, recognisable shapes, which was especially noticeable compared to, actual Transformers, where what makes the Transformers designs really look like Transformers is, oh yeah, there's a car part in the chest, and some other stuff. So you can't just go all fine detail. You got to work in stuff like the same types of rectangles or this or that. There are many elements that go into designs. And that's something that makes Tankheads great, because it's like, oh yeah, there is that tank part for the chest, and oh, the side sponson armor has been reused into the shoulders, and it's something that really drew me to Emerson Tung's designs in the first place. It's like, it's not just all detail that can be a bit of a mess. It's that extra element which might seem outdated in some ways, like blockiness, but it really helps make a design more memorable. Like, one of the first things I saw from him, which really is still one of my favourite designs of his to this day, is his Star Knight series, where it's like, oh yeah, that is a giant space mech with booster legs, but it's like, oh, it's got the consistent circles, and it's just a design that really works just because there are recognisable shapes. Ooh, Tempestus Quill and Kill Team. The aerial mechs bit down the pipeline. Heavily converted kit patch to give them a more rugged mercenary look. Yeah, that kit, the Tempestus Aquilons, I definitely want to do something with those at some point. I mean, I like Kill Team stuff just because they often have more different and out there designs, just because it is a one-off as opposed to having to fit into a full army. But those Tempestus Aquilon designs in particular, they do look like just cool, tactical 40k mercenaries. So yeah, I'm sure those will turn out great. Okay, so one of the last few things before going on to contrast paints and all the effects and shading is to... I'm going to use contrast paints to give the front headlights a bit of a glow, but I am going to... do need to like paint over the stripes over there in metal. yeah, the Eldar Corsairs, which are a bit different from regular Elders, they wouldn't fit into a proper army. So it's like, yeah, here's that one-off. Same, well, not exact same thing, but kind of same thing for the one I picked up for the Helldivers kill team. What are they? Oh. The Cassakins. Because it's like, oh yeah, that's Imperial Guard, but it's something slightly different about them, so it's good for new, different design. It's good for slight variations which wouldn't fit into the proper army. I am just keeping my fingers so crossed for an AdMech kill team. It's probably a ramble I've been on a dozen times myself, but AdMech haven't got a proper kill team yet. All they had before was just reusing Skitarii and Sicarians from the game, and it's like, oh, what could they do a different flavour with them? Could they go dark AdMech? So just keeping my fingers crossed that AdMech gets a kill team, just because cool variants. But regardless, I'm interested to see what's next for kill team. The most recent thing to come out has been the repurpose of the Space Marine Heroes, which has been the Space Marine and Death Guard starter set. Ooh. Once you get those trenches done, you'll be diving back into your custom Lost Primarch. Ooh. That's always a good, I don't know, good potential for super custom stuff. How are you building it? What style are you going for? What kit you using? Because there's a few Primarch models out now. So you got a few different kits to go from, and of course depending on your style. Something that always comes to mind for that stuff is Pete the Wargamer's stuff, because he's done quite a few different, I don't know, Lost Primarch Ultimates now. Yeah, I'd be interested to see Tempest the Quillings. Do you post them anywhere online, like on Twitter or Instagram? So I'd be happy to take a look at them there. It's just because I can't really post images on YouTube. Okay, so for your Lost Primarch, you got them from scratch by dumping bits box onto your desk and just going, hey, that can work out well, you never know. I mean, that's how I started with my BT. Had a bunch of bits together to see if I could actually kit bash a Vashtor proxy. And then, because I got out armoured, because that's, smaller mech bits. That makes sense for a big chaosy demon. And then in those armature bits, it's like, wait, that cylinder on his back looks a bit like BT's face. And so that was one of my favourite builds yet, and that just started out by dumping bits on a desk and seeing what sticks. Even if it was for a different conversion idea that I never actually got around to in the end. But yeah, when Primarch kit bashes, Pete the Wargamer's Conrad Kurz, Night Lord's Primarch always comes to mind. How that was made out of the Lionel Johnson. And like at times, like my mind goes to that conversion when thinking of that kit instead of the actual default build. it was very minimally changed, but it was just like, wow, it's a good conversion. Had to stop yourself from buying a big net after you saw my conversion. Thank you. That is what I liked. It is the goal of my stuff, to inspire other people to do their own stuff, even if it isn't particularly good for the wallet. Let me just clean up some of these lines. But yeah, there's plenty of times I've had to stop myself of seeing somebody else's kit bash and going, oh, I want to make that, or just having a good idea, and it's like, well, I just need that kit, and or I just need to buy this, and it's like, no, I've already got a queue of 7 different ideas in the backlog I need to get to first, which I've already bought kits for. I want a very fine tip on this. Where's the other row? Just because the masking tape did work well, but there are plenty of weird, different shapes to the forearm that I had to wrap the masking tape around that didn't end up sticking that smoothly to, so masking tape works well for the clean lines of the marks, but sometimes it does need a bit of cleanup afterwards. Playing with folk, but you find my robot stuff after watching gamey builds. Ooh, let's see. Shake your overhead camera for a second. Sorry about that. Let's see. Gamey builds isn't something that's instantly familiar, but there's so many builders doing custom kit bashing stuff. Oh damn, that stuff's great. Let's see. Damn. Oh, I've seen some of their stuff before. Yeah, like the Big Bot Bash challenge, yeah. But yeah, there's so many just different builders online, and there's always something new to find out and go, oh wow, that stuff's amazing, how haven't I found out about them before? Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I've seen well, not game builds themselves, but I've seen somebody similar I follow who does similar stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it's part of their unique world setting, It's like, oh, that's a cool extra element to add to them. So a lot of the time I think about, oh, how would this custom 40k mech fit into my Forge world? But it's never more than a passing thought. I might start writing more stuff up in full for them as, like, I don't know, a bit of a blurb to go at the end of certain videos, but it is a neat extra to not just have the model, but also here's how it fits into here's how it links up with all my other models and fits into that. And then there is some metal cleanup I need to do elsewhere too. Probably boiling. Let's check that. Always an abundance of cool builders I need to watch more stuff of. Boiler Hobby Time. Yeah, I've seen that stuff before too. Ooh, they got a scarab? The giant halo walker thing. Be interesting to see how that's done. Careful, gotta stop myself getting too distracted. Got my old build. Got my own build to finish first. And those are some inner pistons that need the lighter silver too now. The arms. I've missed a lot of stuff on the arms because they're like in between. I've said how I've broken it down before, where I've got the frame parts, which have their own separate level of detailing with the copper, the red wires, the inner pistons, and then I've had the armour, which is the grey, and then it's got the stripes, and then the extra metal details on top of that. But the arms are like half and half, because the lower half is the armour part, but it's got a lot of elements of that mechanical stuff too. Just because of the way it was built, I couldn't like separate the armor from it. Ooh, inspired you to build a tiny Evangelion out of one of the smallest knights, a few Tyranid parts, and a lot of putty. Ooh. Tyranid parts and the smallest knight. Because when you say Evangelion mechs for 40k, my mind goes to the Eldar Wraiths, because they have that long skinny design, but out of Tyranid parts too. Ooh. Oh yeah, Black Magic Craft. I follow him too, but yeah, that is more like D&D, like dungeon tile focused stuff, which is still great in its own method, just because you never know what, even if it's for a completely different setting, you never know what techniques will come in handy. Like, oh, I need to build terrain for this, and it's like, oh, I remember how someone made a dungeon tile set like that, so even if it's completely differently themed stuff, there's always something to learn that'll come in handy. Before I forget another thing too, I need to make a start on the base as well. At least get a dry brush coat down for that. Okay, so inner pistons. The inner pistons being a brighter silver. That's something from the Tankhead design, but also something I've noticed just looking at real world like mechanical stuff a lot. It's like the inner part of the piston is always like a way brighter, way shinier, almost like chromed thing. I don't know whether that's like inherent to the design where it needs to be that shinier, glosser, smoother for movement, or whether it's just that always gets, I don't know, is kept cleaner just by the mechanics of it moving in and out. But the inner part of a piston always being a brighter silver is a good point of real world inspiration to take for mechanics. Okay, so this base. I still see some white in the cracks. Might not pick up that well on camera, but I think I may actually need to do another coat of primer. Just because it is going to stand out a lot if the deepest part, the most recessed parts, which should be the most shaded, or white instead of black. But yeah, looks like I can't paint that just yet. Still need to figure out the colours for it. Because that is a piece that I am taking inspiration from. Where is it? It's another thing from the Tankhead book. There it is. This page of the Tankhead book. It is that base at the bottom there, because you can see the. You can see the gate struts and the gears behind them, and then like the paneling below. Yes, it is a custom base. Thank you. I did. Mostly out of plasticard and squared plastic rod. Let's see if I can get up a picture of it while it was being made. Yeah, it was like started off with some struts I made out of plastic rod, some resin gears. Then I used some just plasticard paneling for like the layer in the middle. And then for the smaller panels between, I used some thinner plasticard and carved out some random random line patterns from the edge of my plasticard that I cut from. And then cut those out, glued them down. And then just use some leftover green stuff wire for the stuff at the edge. And that's how those bases came together. Yeah, the art in the book. It's, I mean, this is like my second or third whole build, big huge kit bash inspired by it, but it is full of amazing Tankhead designs and mechs. You can see this is the one specifically that I'm basing this Tankhead off of, but there is so much stuff in here. There's more stubbier ones, there's like this more animalistic ones, there's the jet heads and helicopters and something inspired by like the Carl Gustav, the giant tank train gun. But always, I have like a shelf of art books of various mechanical things. Like I've got some Simon Stellenhag books. I've got the Pacific Rim art book. I've got The Art of Bjarni Dali, which is another kit basher who had a whole book explaining his stuff. And I've got the Titanfall art book too. Just because whenever I'm building something and I go, how do I build this kind of thing? Like, oh, how do I build the inner elbow? Or how do I build a shoulder joint? Or how do I detail this type of flat space I've got? I always just like flip through art books and see how others have done it. Like, I've got 2 art books that I always keep like close to hand, just for instant reference. And you see me pulling them out a lot. I just did it with my Tankhead, but always within arm's reach of my desk, I've got Titanfall 2 and Tankhead. Just because those are some of my favourite mech designs, and so they're always the first things I look at when I'm trying to figure out something. Okay. Let's not get too distracted. Back to painting. Second coat of Rakarth Flash. On your blue sky. Okay. I'll keep an eye on that, because, like I said, I do want to do something with the Aquilans myself. So I'm eager to see how other people do it too. Rakarth Flash. Man, I do have a lot of social media profiles to keep up with now. Might have spread myself a little thin on them. So I've got my Blue Sky, I've got my Twitter, I've got my Instagram. And that's just for like regular social media posts. Then I also can't forget to update my YouTube and my TikTok too. And then there's some longer-winded posts I put on my Patreon to update my Patreon, so there's a lot to keep up with. Okay, that's good for the Rakarth Flash. There's some other details of the servo skull inside here to do now. Because let's see if it picks up on camera. There you go, I've got a tiny little servo skull just right in a crack of the wall there. Just because, where is it? The gun goes in there, and then under it there is an autoloader, like a servo arm holding a shell, and so there needs to be something overseeing that. So I've put a nice little servo skull in there, so it's his job to take a look at the reloading and make sure that's going on alright. But because of that, I did notice that there is a red wire left paint. Yeah, Twitter is a bit of a mess. I've been on there for so long and I have so many people and artists I'm keeping up with, I can't just leave it straight away, but I have done my best to like only stay on the following tab, so I only keep up with people I actually follow, and I'm in my nice little... I've blocked out my own space of just following hobby people and avoiding the larger discourse at hand, so it works for now, but I don't expect... I've got my Blue Sky as a backup, and also Instagram and everywhere else too, so if one social media goes down, I don't lose contact with everyone at least. But yeah, it is a lot of posting to keep up with. Yeah, there are a lot of social medias now. Like I said, I think I've spread myself a bit too thin with all the ones I'm on. But there were even places where I'd like think, oh, should I post to? Because like on Facebook a few times it's happened where people have said, oh yeah, I saw your stuff on Facebook. It's like, I don't post my stuff to Facebook. And there were times, especially for my Helldivers minis, because those were about the biggest stuff that most people noticed about, well, that got the most likes and got shared the most online, and there were plenty of places where people just copied the photos and downloaded the video and just didn't say where they got it from. So there were a few places where I just went, oh, I guess people like my stuff, they just might have been a bit stolen. So I go, oh, should I get on Facebook too? And it's like, no, I'm in enough places now. I mean, there are a lot of places where it's like, yeah, I'd be posting, I'm on there to take a look at other people's stuff anyway. I might as well just like post a few things so people know it's me there. Few buttons on the binoculars, that's the word for it, binoculars. Picking out some wires coming off of the servo skull. And I won't use red for the other wire because he's going to have a red eye, so I'll use a nice orange. Ooh. See my stuff on Facebook in a Tankhead group. Yeah, that's what I mean, where it's like people on there like my stuff. It's just even if I didn't post it myself, so it makes me wonder, oh, should I bother posting my stuff there myself just in case? But I've got my hands full keeping up with everywhere I can now. Just nice to know that even more people like my stuff than I share to directly. What else needs colours? What else needs colours? There's been so many times in this build where it's paint that, then while painting it I go, actually I need to paint that too. But then afterwards I go, oh, I need to paint something else too, and I get caught up correcting this and then that and then this. I don't even get back to some of the first things I was thinking of. Like, oh, I need to do some cleanup of the metals. So there, and there. And let's check it on the other side of the arm because there's bound to be similar mistakes too. Yep. There. What was I originally going to fix? Oh, the front of the chest. That. What was I going to do next? Ah, that's why I got the metal out in the first place. There are a few metal details on the shoulder armor, not the outer shoulder armor, the inner shoulder armor, as in the one that's on the neck on the main body. Probably should have like split this up a bit better. Like, oh, I'll do all the breaking it up into just painting the armor and then painting this part of the frame and then the other, but I am in a bit of a rush. I want to get this done before the end of the year, so it's not super efficient. Paint the hinges. And paint some other mechanical details. Awesome. Great. Atomic Quarry, choir, organ-y type music. Okay, I think there's still a few other smaller bits. A few other small details to do, but there's some stuff I wanted to get done before. Well, there's stuff I wanted to get done before the end of the stream, so let's get to that. In fact, before we do that, I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to refresh paint water, get a new drink, stretch a little, reorganize my desk, and then get into contrast glowy stuff. So, be back in a minute. Can take a quick break, and then it is time to get onto some glow bits. Okay, I'm back and almost ready to get on to the next step. Just need to organise this a little better. Right, frame parts go on the left since I don't think there's anything that I need to do. move the paints I'm not currently using off the main space. The arm panels don't need any glow bits, so they can go off to the right. Those need it, those need it, those don't, 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 and those don't. This stuff does, this stuff does, this stuff does, this stuff doesn't. This stuff does, this stuff does. Okay. I think that is everything I need the glowy bits on. So let's get the actual paint for that out. This is good old Athematic Blue Contrast. I use that for all my blue glow effects like plasma or lights on certain AdMech vehicles or scopes. And then there's another paint. Corandras Green. This one I use for all my screens and anything that needs a green glow. I'll start off with Corandras Green, because this normally needs 2 coats. So, this one is a bit thicker, so it does come up with a dark green, but on that nice dark green, almost like matrixy type, with the very dull stuff on it for this. Make sure all the screens get a kind of thick coating on that, just because contrast. This is one of the contrasts which works well with, I don't know, extra image you put on it, because it dries in that specific way, which gives it more depth. Any other green bits? There we go. The screen on this guy's binoculars. Ooh, that looks good. Let's actually have somewhere proper to put these to dry. As you can see, I've got a very low-tech method of bamboo skewers with crocodile clips on the end. I use these for priming and holding stuff to let them dry. And this is just some cardboard cut like long ways, so it's like corrugated cardboard, is like kind of facing outwards. This makes it perfect to hold parts. That itself is a nice trick I picked up from Gunpla. just a good way to haul parts and then let them dry. Are there any other green bits, or is that it? Okay, that's it. And it's probably not it, but... And then it's onto the blues. Good old athematic blue contrast. Just need a few specific spots on all the minis. Now this, I love the way this contrast works, because you can put it over brighter painted parts, which is where I was doing all the prep, painting it with the grey seal more lightly, but it can also work well for like a duller glow over non-white areas. So you can both paint it both on the areas of primed and just on the areas around it, because it looks like then the bit that was white is the bit glowing, and everything else has just the residual glow object source lighting. Oh, you've posted the Aquilans now. Yeah, I'll take a quick look, but I am still in the middle of painting. Ooh, damn, that was great. Yeah. I'll probably take a bit of a better look afterwards, but are those more Necromunda bits? Like, is that a Van Sar sniper rifle on it? Or on one of them? That's no problem, it's a cool distraction. Yeah, I also like to add a bit of this blue glow and some weapon bits. Looks like it does work as like, oh, the energy, it's like residual light from the energy. Yeah, residual light from the energy weapon. Just go there. There are a few points in the front of it. Just trying to make sure all the contrast is evenly distributed in the areas. headlights too. And then there's some sights on the guns. It's nice and simple for that one. Let's let it dry upright. Ah, these controls too. Can't forget about these. Green screen, I want it to be a green screen. Bit too much green, so let's see if we can take some back off with the brush. There we go. And let's see. Let's put it up on a clip so it can dry correctly. Where is it? I forgot the blue for the binocular scope. And there's a lot of back and forth today. But then with this done, then I think it might be time to move on to washing and shading. Wait a minute, there's something else I want to paint on this guy with contrast. Black Templar, because this guy has regular old human-y hands, but it looks weird if they're the exact same silver as his metal armor. So I'm going over it with the contrast paint Black Templar to make it look more like rubber or leather. It's another point where it's, I don't know, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference to the model, but it just doesn't sit right with me visually that the humanoid hands look the same as the metal bits. If they were like prosthetic hands, yeah, that'd work, but if you notice, the prosthetic hands are a bit different. Because with prosthetic hands, even on a lot of Space Marines, if I remember correctly, they have 3 fingers instead of the 4. Aside from the more obvious mechanical stylings. which is, it's just a very small detail, but it is, I don't know, a thing I always like and stands out in my mind is like, oh yeah, it's an extra unnecessary digit according to AdMech. It's another weakness of the Flash. Where'd the music go? Sacred machinery. Whew. Okay, so how is that coming along on the screens? Still drying. Okay. Let me refresh that water and get a new paper towel because that is getting a bit damp. And then I can start look at mixing up some shade. Because it's might be time to finally shade all the armor. And mixing a shade because I don't like the pure black or pure brown shades or washes because just all being one colour doesn't sit completely right with me, so I like to mix them a little. I've seen other people do it something similar and call it, I think it's marine juice, because they mix it in big batches for when they're painting lots of a whole army's worth of marines at one go. But I just like to do it because it gives a bit more, not depth, but it's another extra step which adds something a bit extra to the model. Now, I will need to switch to a much bigger brush, because it is something, learning from my mistakes from the last night I built. I used a smaller brush to apply all the shade, and it was I don't know whether it was like too small or the mixture was too thick, but you could see all the brush marks on it in the end. Which is unusual because I've never had that for shade before, but it's also like the first time painting something that big. So let's see, ah, no! I've got this guy. He has some lights on him too. I was wrong, we weren't done with the contrasts. Just quickly. And one other one on the side too. There we go. Whew. And this is a lot to cover, so I'll need a big brush and I'll need to mix a big batch of it too. So this brush goes away for now. Let's find a big one. Let's see what is in my brush case for that. Here we go. Size 8. That is probably big enough. And we don't really need to wash the frame because the dry brushing gave it a lot of depth. I might go back and like wash the other small bits I painted individually, but that's later. For now, let's get a palette. Try to clean out one of the sections of it. Good enough. Use this one and gonna make up a custom mix of some, what is it, dark tone and heavy tone? Where is it? Dark tone and strong tone from the Alpha Painter. I want to make sure these get a very good shake, just because I've not shaken them enough before, and then it's left them with a bit of a sheen. Actually, no. Should I do this now? Because there is also the extra step of adding decals, which I still need to do. I'll shade the Skitari, but I won't shade the armour. It's a bit of a puzzle. Gotta find the right ways this all goes together. Been rushing to get this done before Christmas, but I might need to force myself to stop and take a bit of a step back and make sure I don't mess it up by trying to go too quickly. Okay, so no armour shade for now. But we are still doing some shades. I still have the size 2. Which is big enough to use to shade the Skitari. Stick to this guy. There we go. Skit on stick. Onto the other guy too. Him in his chair. Then let's mix up some wash. Not quite marine juice, but I don't know. robot juice, I guess. Strong tone is the brown wash. Want it to be more black, so I'll do more drops of dark tone. And just a few drops of water, so it isn't too thick. I'll mix that. So it's not quite black, not quite brown. Because I don't know, if you don't match the right colour correctly for a colour to its shade, from a base coat to its shade, then it does look a bit weird. Like, brown naturally goes on red, but if you paint black on red, then it just looks dirty instead of shaded. And vice versa for if you like paint brown on blue. It's more that, I don't know, strong tone, not warm tone, cold tone kind of thing, where what highlights to go with? You go with colder highlight colours which are bluer, or warmer highlight colours which are like red or orange. Like for Black Templars, I noticed a lot of people like to go more blue when highlighting the armour. But I don't really like that myself, just because one of the most notable pieces of art... one of the most notable pieces of art for them is the John Blanche 3rd edition, I think it is, cover. Where it's Black Templars doing the good old on a pile of dead and dying brothers shooting off into every direction. And that piece always stood out to me, and one very notable thing about it is that it's on, looks like a Martian setting, because there's so many reds and browns and oranges. That's always just like set the look mentally for Black Templars for me. So I always like to take it in a warmer direction with non-blue greys and stuff to highlight the armour, and I also like to base them with Martian dunes, like the red dust type stuff. So just extra stuff to think about when shading and highlighting. It's like, oh, you go for this, go warmer or darker, or shade with a different colour altogether to get some really funky shadows. Okay, there's one skit shaded. And probably, once these are shaded, I'll be wrapping it up for today. Can't go too long, I've got a few holiday preparations to take care of. So I'll be busy for a while. Won't be able to continue on with painting this for a few days at least. So wanted to get more done, but poor planning on my part. As I mentioned with, forgot the whole decal step. But it is what it is. I'll be back at it after Christmas. Not sure I'll be able to fit in another stream though, so, you know. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Damn, did I hear that correctly? Steam notification. I haven't had one of those in ages. I got a lot to catch up on after stream. Oh well. Guitar shoulder. And this guy. This one is nice and simple. He's barely popping out of one of the Tankhead at the top, so he's just a torso pretty much. Then where this guy shaded is just the driver left. Sorry, not the driver, the guy behind the driver, the comms operator, and an engineer. Don't even need to have to worry too much about him because he is mostly hidden anyway, but it's my own personal satisfaction. There are plenty of bits I've painted and detailed before that barely even see the light today, but it's my own personal satisfaction. I know he's there, so I gotta know he's painted alright too. That was very quick and dirty shading. Let's do it for the servo score too. Ooh. Actually, will actually shade some of the frame. Well, I've got the shade mixed. Just because it's a good way to just mini test area. Make sure this shade combo looks good once it's dried, and since the feet aren't going to get any decals, I don't need to worry about doing this part out of its order either. It's a problem of building in such huge chunks. Legs especially has happened a few times to me. It's kind of hard to find the exact right way to hold it and rotate it in your hand to reach the right spots. That works. The only problem is when it comes to later, when there's more areas to paint, and accidentally grab it by a wet area and get paint on your hands and end up having to repaint stuff before. Like, you can see I've got some paint on my finger. So I've just been doing this all the last few days. Okay, so what are some other areas that I can wash while I'm here? That bit is very copper, so I need to make sure the recesses of it are good. It's not just a copper highlight. There. The wires too. There's a crevice in between them. All the kind of circular details on the two knees. Okay, now here's the awkward point of how do I hold it? Inside of the thigh joint. There it is. This big central column of copper. detail. The back of the hip. Yeah, hold it like that. Just a few more areas on it. Detail in front of the thigh. Okay. That's pretty much used up the shade too. And that is as much as I can really do for now. So the whole decal step is a big step I don't have time to start right now. So I'll have to leave it there for today. Since I'll be leaving it here for a while, not painting for a few more days, I mean, I need to make sure my brush is nice and clean. Brush care is important. It's how I've been able to use this one brush for years. I don't paint a lot, but still, I've got some good use out of this brush, and it's nice, and I don't want it to fray. So, after cleaning with regular water, making sure there's no obvious big clumps of paint, I'm going to get some paint thinner. This is Tamiya Colour Acrylic Paint X20A thinner. Only need a little. Pour it in the cap of it. Just rinse my brush in that, move it around a little. There's no paint coming off of there, which is a good sign. So I can dry that off the brush. And the last step before putting the brush away is brush soap. Just to make sure that... Ooh, wait a minute. Yeah, there was just some stuff gotten loose by the thinner. Let's do that step one more time just to be safe. Brush soap, the last step, which helps. The most important thing for helping the brush keep its point. I've heard you can just use like regular shampoo or conditioner for this step too, because it does the same purpose, because brush hairs are still hairs. But the soap I use is this Green Stuff World brush cleaner, which is brush cleaner and preserver soap. And what I do for that is just put a small drop down somewhere on the palette where it's not going to get any paint. Just brush it into the brush, make sure it's in all the bristles, and then just, as you normally would to like make sure your brush has a fine point, twirl it on the paper towel, which removes the excess soap but still keeps some in there, and just make sure that it has a nice point with the soap in it. Like that, the brush soap will kind of keep it in place. Because normally the brush can dry and then it'll split and then it'll just be in storage for a while where it's dried and often, what is it, splayed? No, frayed, yeah. It'll dry. If it's just water, then it will just dry and then fray. But the brush will help keep it in place, and all the soap will help keep the brush bristles in place all the time you're not using it. So then put that away, and that is That is the wrong brush lid. No, it's the right one. Okay, but yeah, that'll keep the brush in place. Forgot. It's not the only brush I use this time. So we'll go through that very quick. Okay, no paint in there. I'll brush soap on the palette. It's worked into the brush. And twirl it to leave it with a fine point. And then I can leave the brush as like that, so I know it will not be frayed when I come back and pick it up for the next painting session. But that is that painting session done. Thank you for coming and watching. The Tankhead is a step further to complete now, with a bunch of other small details wrapped up in some glows done. Just need to do some decals next, and then shade it all, and then it'll be highlighting, and still need to do one more coat of this, and then do the base too. But thank you for tuning in, and like I said, this will be last stream of the year probably, so Merry Christmas, and see you all in the new year.